Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being here with us today. I'm Emily Sumner, and I'll be your host for the next hour. Today's webinar is brought to you by edWeb and Torch, a video based coaching and professional learning platform. All right, let's go ahead and meet Paula and Ursula, who've been waiting so patiently on screen to begin. Dr. Paula Bevan is a national consultant for school improvement through teaching excellence and has guided hundreds of school districts to develop and implement research based evaluation, mentoring, and induction programs for teachers and principals. She specializes in providing services to high need public urban schools and those with multiple barriers to student success. Paula is the co author of the book Implementing a Framework for Teaching and Enhancing Professional Practice, an ASCD action tool, and she is founding member of the Danielson Group. She also served on the team that assisted the state of New York in the redesign of its teacher evaluation system and subsequent training of statewide trainers. Paula is joined today by Ursala Maddox Davis, who is the Teacher Effectiveness Coordinator for Rockdale County Public Schools in Conyers, Georgia. She works with certified and classified staff at the district's 22 schools and on several district projects such as video learning, cultural proficiency, teacher and leader induction, and mentor-mentee programs. And if that doesn't keep her busy enough, which I know it does, she is working on her doctorate degree at Columbus State University. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hand things off to Paula.
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you for gifting yourself with today's learning. In the hubbub, sometimes that's difficult, so good for you. Today's subject, as you well know, is video coaching that improves student learning. And so take a moment, if you will. We selected some outcomes that we felt would be important for us in our learning today. So take a moment and just scan what you see on your screen, and note any particular outcome that resonates for you, that is more closely connected, perhaps, with why you thought this would be a good time for your learning. And so there's context to all learning, of course. And within this idea of video based coaching, um, there's a much larger context. And I'd like to just take a moment and sort of acknowledge that context and also recognize our efforts within it. A couple of years ago, we were struck with some unexpected conditions in the field of education as well as society. Few of us could have predicted exactly what those conditions would have looked like a decade before. And so it was a little bit of build the plane while you're flying it, right? And so I think we should acknowledge the degree to which we rose up and met challenges we could not have imagined during the pandemic, even if we could have imagined a pandemic at all, right? And yet, the pandemic simply served to put a magnifying glass on some things we've already known. Teachers have never been remunerated in ways that are right or fair compared to other professions and the contribution they make to a democratic society. We've always struggled with this, haven't we? And it's hit and miss as to whether districts support new teachers in ways that are likely to foster retention. An apple in your mailbox doesn't foster retention. And so we've always had to think about what resources do we have to support new teachers, and regardless of intentions, is our support effective in retaining them? Because we know that when teachers leave, they take professional development with them. whatever that professional development is. And whether they're novices or experienced folks, if they leave our district, they're taking that learning along with them. Some places, as you well know, you've probably worked in some of them, don't have a climate that's nurturing to anybody really. Um, I can tell you of a climate that I worked in personally, where teachers who became nationally board certified were professionally hazed. Now, that's not a productive climate, and we can't expect retention, um, or even recruitment for that matter to be successful. We have classes we have to cancel because we don't have teachers to fill those places. It's certainly true, and I know many of you, I've probably worked in your schools, and you know that these existing issues simply were amplified as we went into the pandemic. And then it's not just new persons entering, it's folks deciding to leave when the challenges feel too great, or I feel like that I'm not remunerated for what all I do, right? And or, I've just had enough. And so suddenly we're in, just like last week with Hurricane Ian, we're in a perfect storm. The conditions are just right to allow us to have maximum concerns about professional development, maximum concerns about student learning, maximum concerns about teacher retention, right? So that context is what holds today's very important learning. And so it's important to think about in these days where professional dollars need to be used wisely, not that they ever didn't, but today more than ever, where student learning is more urgent, to look to what research might have to say to us about, well, what is it that we should be doing to address these concerns that have been inflated, if you will, since um, 2019 or beyond. And so, all of these things. This is simply a walk, a tiptoe through the tulips of reminding ourselves what we already know about professional learning. But certainly, we know it's much more effective when it does not occur separately to one's daily work. So, hauling people into a professional learning center and having, workshops or presenters is not nearly as effective as having an apprenticeship model where one is coached as one works, right? We've known this for some time. It certainly lets us think about, well, that would automatically individualize the support. If I'm someone who's working as a coach with a teacher, I'm working as a coach within the context of their teaching. And that automatically provides individualization for each teacher. And so that takes us to, what does that look like? And we're going to say a bit more about professional development that's coaching based in a moment or two. But those coaches, we already know, and many of you are living this daily, that coaches have to be specifically trained, highly trained. And my colleague, Ursala Davis is going to tell you a lot about what that looks like, feet on the ground, right? Goodwill notwithstanding, oftentimes we're not always offering the kind of nutrition, professional development wise, that will grow teaching in the right ways. And then we need, for the kind of learning we offer to teachers and the learning they get from that, to be visible. So we need to be able to look at the teaching and collect evidence of the teaching, talk about the teaching, think about what we could modify with regard to that teaching, and so on. And it's not teaching as we think of it as good, but as what research might suggest is good. What is our current understanding of what good teaching really is? And how can we have a recursive cycle of that has to do with before teaching and during teaching and after teaching, and what evidence looks like and what feedback looks like, and so on. That's not new to any of us. It's just a reminder to come back to what really works, right? And that is job embedded professional learning. It's also just so darn efficient. If we can look at teaching, let's say a video clip of teaching, and a coach can look at that in his or her own time and provide feedback to the teacher in structured ways that they've learned how to do, right? And maybe based on what the teacher would like feedback upon, or on student learning data, right? Then
Mhm.
getting to the heart of improving not just teaching, but the shortest path to student learning. That's how we improve student learning. We grow teaching, right? If I never had to hear the phrase exit ticket again in my life, I could live without it. Not because it's a bad thing, but because it became the universal ingredient that formed the basis of every professional development for I don't know how long back in the day. Nothing wrong with an exit ticket. An exit ticket's great, except when it's not, or if it's not appropriate, or if there's a better way, or if something else would provide a little fresh approach to assessing who learned what, right? And so this whole idea of we're going to give you a strategy, make everybody use it, not really ask that you think too hard about whether it's appropriate for this circumstance. We're just dropping that in the bin. We have been. We've been doing much better at that. And it certainly could be that as I coach a given teacher who's never heard about an exit ticket, we wind up talking about that, which is great. But bringing, all of our people into a big setting and say, here's what you're all going to use. This is it, is an approach that we've recognized that requires more attention. Let's put it that way. I love an exit ticket. I just never want to talk about it again. And so this idea is just, rather than that, the wallpaper approach, here's a strategy for all. We we get to provide a teacher with individualized feedback around, how do you know which students learned and which ones didn't? Oh, do you do something to assess that every day? What does that look like? Oh, it's an exit ticket. And does that give you the information you need, wonderful. You never heard of an exit ticket? Okay, we can talk about that. But that's individualized to what the teachers and what they might need. Hallelujah, right? Right. And so, what we need then, in lieu of all that sort of professional development that's like passing out cookies, all kinds of strategies that we toss and people catch and so on, we know that video coaching, and studies have shown that video coaching by trained teacher coaches, trained, and Ursula's going to teach us all about that in just a minute, um, compared um, to what untrained coaches or this pass out strategy approach is, yields increased student learning. That's all there is to it. That's marvelous news. We now know a path. A path is revealed, not the only path, but it's one of them that we can walk to raise student learning and support teaching at the same time. How great is that, right? And so there are many models of these kinds of coaching upon which I'm sure Rockdale drew many of the features of the program you're about to hear about, but um, all of them involve the close training of coaching and coaches and the collection of evidence and the individualization of the work. And so that goes back to this notion of making teaching and learning visible. I can watch it in a video clip. I can tell you what I thought I saw. You can tell me what you intended it to be, and we can talk about it, right? And so probably many of you out there use one of these definitions of good teaching. If it's not one of these, we trust that it's based in the research of practice, and that's what will anchor your work, right? And that you train your folks around evidence, that it's not what I think or feel or how I want you to do it or making you over into my image. But what does the evidence seem to show, right? Facts. And as we now move into the hands-on, let's get practical aspect of today's learning, let's revisit again sort of what we said we'd be learning about. The impact of coaching, review the research we know well. And now we're going to hear more about the actual steps for designing a program, how to build up some momentum, right, for that if you're not already there, and how it can change student learning where you are. My colleague, Ursula.
Thank you so much, Paula. I really appreciate that. And starting with the research is always great because we have to understand where we've been in order to know where we're going. And so in Rockdale County Public Schools, it's truly been a journey. We started looking at video coaching back in 2016. And the reason we reevaluated what our program looked like was because one, we went one to one, meaning that every student had access to a device. We also had instructional coaches in most of our schools, and we had digital learning specialists in our schools as well. And we administered a survey to all of our certified staff. And here is some of the feedback that we received. You'll notice in that first comment, one person said, I would like my coach to be free enough to come to and model strategies for us. Another person said, oh, my coach is amazing. However, they're not given enough time to coach. A new teacher, a baby teacher, an induction teacher said, I do not receive the support of my instructional coach. And so we had to change. We had to go through a paradigm shift in order to ensure that our teachers were supported. We all know that Marzano says that the greatest impact to student achievement is the teacher itself. So, considering that, we had to change our focus. So, what did that look like in Rockdale County? So, we also realized that our teachers go through, and this is not just induction teachers, but all of our teachers and some of our leaders as well. We experience the phases of induction teachers, going from anticipation to survival to disillusionment. And right about now, we're somewhere in between survival and disillusionment. But then, somewhere around in March, we began to feel rejuvenated, and then we start reflection. And then over the summer break, we have this experience of anticipation again. And it wasn't just our induction teachers that were feeling any of these emotions, it was also our teachers, our veteran teachers. So, again, we had to rethink how we approach coaching. So, we started with our induction process. We didn't want to shock the entire district, so instead, we focused on a granular set of core people that could use video coaching to truly improve their practice. And so here is the process from 2016. So an induction teacher was assigned a mentor by their school administrator. The mentor would check in on the induction teacher throughout the school year, and I would call that the fly-by-night check-in. Our induction teacher would record themselves or have an observation once a year. And then that induction teacher would receive some feedback, and that feedback was usually somewhere around the end of the school year. That was not good enough. And it wasn't good enough, not just for our teachers, but it wasn't good enough for our students. So here's a chart of our journey. Again, we didn't blink our eyes and make it happen overnight. So you'll see how we phased in video coaching. We started with a pilot group, and then year one, we only focused on induction teachers. And during that time, we only asked them to just upload a video and share it with someone else. And then year two, we made it a little bit more intentional. We wanted them to upload a video, but this time we wanted their mentor to actually provide commentary. And then, of course, in year three, you all know what happened. And so we had to punt and really look at, well, now it's not face-to-face teaching. Now we need to reflect on virtual learning. And then in year four, we're all back into the classrooms face to face. And so now we're focusing on the wealth and the depth of the feedback that every single teacher is receiving. We also expanded our outlook, and instead of just focusing on induction teachers, now we focus on teachers of concern, those teachers that struggle. And then we also record teachers who are doing very well in the classroom, and we use them to showcase what good teaching looks like. So we're highlighting those best practices in the classroom. So I do want to show you some of the analytics that we've gathered out of our TORCH system. And you'll notice during the pilot year, there's very minimal usage. It was optional, and we only focused on one school using TORCH talent. And then during year one, you see a spike, of course. And so here we're only focusing on having the teachers upload a video and then just watching themselves. We used the Gym Night coaching cycle, and we just wanted them to watch themselves, just reflect. And then you see a spike, but also notice in 2019, Even though we were going through a pandemic, we didn't see a lot of decline in the usage of video. But then I want you to notice here, we did see a decline in the minutes that were played during the pandemic. But again, we rebounded, and then you see we have that spike. Our teachers were frightened. They said to us, look, now I really do need feedback because now I have to reteach our students how to have school. What should it look like? So we did have somewhat of a rebound in 2021. And then in 2022, we were really focusing, narrowing our focus on the wealth of commentary that was provided. So it wasn't about the number of videos that were uploaded. It was about making sure that what you're uploading, we're watching them and we're providing feedback, that very targeted, specific feedback. And with our teachers of concern and many of our induction teachers, generally what prompts our department, professional learning, to really get involved is our administrators who contact us and they'll say, I need help with this particular teacher for a particular reason. And usually we kind of go down this rabbit hole of asking them a series of questions, such as, who is the teacher? How long has the teacher been teaching? Is the teacher new to the district? Is the teacher currently on your instructional coach caseload? How often is the teacher recording themselves? These are critical questions that we have to ask our administrators so that it allows them to reflect on how much support have I provided our teachers internally. So typically with our instructional coaches, we ask them to provide non-evaluative feedback to all of our teachers. We're trying to separate that role of instructional coaches serving as administrators inside of the schoolhouse. We all know that when a teacher sees a coach as an administrator, it damages the rapport that they have. So we ask our instructional coaches to be non-evaluative. There's no judgment zone. We also ask them to build their instructional capacity. So when they set a goal, typically it is related to either instruction or behavior management. And they'll only select one or two goals. No more than one or two. No one can achieve more than that at one time. And we don't want to overwhelm our teachers who are really trying to implement a strategy. And then we just ask our teachers to try it and try to improve. So you'll notice that our verbs are provide, build, and improve. Here is the coaching model that we use. And again, this is of Jim Knight's work. We identify, learn, and improve. And as you can notice, it seems like it's very small, just three simple things. But each one of those phases is loaded. And it starts with a teacher identifying their clear reality. What does instruction look like to me? Again, there's that no judgment. What does it look like to me? So the first question I train our coaches to ask is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate that lesson? That forces the teacher to self-reflect and give themselves a score. Now, oftentimes my new coaches will say, well, what if they say a 10? Ursula, what if they say a 10? That's okay, because sometimes we feel real good about ourselves, right? And so I prompt them to ask the teacher a follow-up clarifying question. Well, I noticed that you rated yourself on a 10. What student evidence do you have to support your claim? Because again, it is about our babies, our students. In the TOR system, you'll notice that you can upload customizable rubrics. This is an example of what our rubric looks like. And this is the goal setting form where our teachers walk through and work with their mentors to navigate through just setting a goal and establishing some type of evidence-based strategy that they can use to meet their goal. And then the second page of our rubric is the feedback. And so it helps them navigate this crucial conversation that the mentor is trying to have with the mentee. Here's an example of the TOR system, and I want you to notice a few things. Here you can rename the video itself right here at the top. And then you see the commentary over here on the left. And the commentary that's provided is time-stamped, and it aligns with each one of these time-stamp bubbles that's actually on the, I don't even know what you call that, but on that recording line. So everything matches. So a teacher can look at the video and navigate to where the commentary aligns, right there at that specific point in time. Here's an example of timestamp commentary between one of our mentors and mentees. So here you'll see the engagement conversation between the mentor, who's giving some kudos at the very beginning. Then you'll see a response from the mentee. So now you see somewhat of an exchange in conversation. And as you read through the commentary, you'll even notice that the lead mentor for that school also provided feedback. And so for this particular goal, the teacher is having some behavior management issues with a few students in the class. And both the mentor and the lead mentor are providing some feedback on what the teacher can do to help with that behavior management. So here's a typical cycle. This is coming from Harvard University, and this is where the teacher videotapes themselves. The teacher chooses a lesson that they would like to share. Then the teacher sends that lesson to an observer, whether it's a peer or colleague. And then there's an exchange of commentary, right? And then they'll meet to discuss what they saw in the video. This is a typical video coaching cycle. So I do think we have just a little bit of time, and I do want to play a video clip of Enya Solomon.
Hi, my name is Enya Solomon, and I am one of the lead mentor teachers in Rockdale County Public Schools. I have 4 amazing things that I would like to tell you about Torch Talent. Great thing number 1, no more scheduling subs or using your planning period to complete observations. You can do your observations through the video platform at a time that fits your schedule as a mentor teacher. Number 2, timestamp feedback. I can't say enough about this. You get timestamp feedback with rubrics and an omniscient point of view, which is absolutely amazing. Great thing about Torch number 3, it's a video and you can view it as many times as you like. You can also share the video with other mentors and instructional coaches in your district, administrators, district level officials, and your professional learning department. They can assist you in giving feedback or they can just see how great your teacher is doing. Great thing about Torch number 4, the mentee teacher can view their video as well. After you give the timestamp feedback, they can see exactly what point in the lesson that they used a great strategy, or they can use a different strategy so they can improve their instructional practices. Prior to Torch Talent in Rockdale County, we did things the old school way, meaning we went into the classroom, we scheduled a sub, we used our planning period. And Torch eliminates all of that. You will not use double the time. The teacher records the video, uploads it to the platform, you view it, give timestamp feedback, you start a dialogue within the platform. So by the time you actually meet with your mentee, the conversations are much more meaningful and much more valuable. So this is a great tool, whether you are full on face-to-face, hybrid, or virtual and uploading the links, it will be amazing.
So that's just one of our lead mentors that work with our induction program. But what I will say is this has saved us time. We don't have to pay as much money for subs. Our mentors and lead mentors are no longer missing the instruction with their students. So it really affords our teachers time to reflect, time to observe, and it works in no matter what modality you're working in, whether it's face-to-face, online, or hybrid. So just going through this journey of video coaching and partnering with Torch Talent to house our videos and just provide a safe space for our teachers to have that engagement conversation has really been remarkable in Rockdale. So what did we learn today? The impact of coaching on teacher effectiveness. When teachers can reflect on themselves, then they can make those mid-course corrections. We also looked at recent research that supports video coaching as a job-embedded professional development. And we talked about how to build momentum for video coaching. Do not shock your districts. You have to go slow to go fast. We all know slow and steady always win the race. And then we also talked about how secure Torch Talent is and how it protects our teachers and our mentors. It gives them that private space to have true conversation about what's going on in the classroom. And then the last thing that we learned today is designing a coaching structure or procedure really helps facilitate video coaching between teachers and the coaches. If you all have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is on here, and thank you, Paula, for sharing this learning space with me. Paula's information is on here as well. And if there are any questions, I think we do have a little bit of time where if there are any questions, I would love to answer.
Well, thank you, Ursula and Paula, both. This was great, Paula, that kind of background and foundational information on professional learning and embedded professional learning. And the video coaching was so helpful and just led really nicely into all that Ursula had to share about, as you said, the feet on the street perspective on this. So thank you both for being here today. And we do have time for questions. But before we get to those, I just want to quickly thank Torch for sponsoring today's webinar and bringing Paula and Ursula to be here with us today. You heard a lot from Ursula and that awesome video about how Rockdale has integrated video coaching into their system using Torch. It's a really powerful platform that not only facilitates the video coaching, but can support all your professional learning activities, including self-paced courses, discussion forums, and goal setting and tracking. And the whole platform is supported by actionable data, which Ursula gave you a little preview of there with her bar bar graphs with videos recorded and minutes watched. So it's supported by that actionable data that really helps coaches and educators identify areas for growth and track that progress. So we encourage you to learn more about Torch and reach out if you have questions or would like to schedule a demo. All right, let's go ahead and take some questions now. We do have quite a few coming in. Probably either one of you can answer this question, so I'll leave it up to who wants to start. But how many focus areas maximum do you recommend for individualized feedback?
So I would say no more than 2 focus areas, because teachers can't handle more than that. So ideally, I would say just one goal, and allow that teacher to really perfect that particular area that they're working on. For example, in an elementary school, maybe it's a teacher trying to work on transitions between small groups. Well, only focus on transitions. Don't try to overload the teachers with 5 or 6 strategies, because they can't do it all well. So just selecting 1 or 2 things and taking baby steps. The other thing that I failed to mention is, before we only had 1 video for the year. Now we require our teachers to record 2 videos per month.
Wow.
And then the mentor provide feedback on 1 video per month. So what that does is it allows the teacher to practice. Like football, they actually practice. And then even during the game, they record it. And when the offense is on a team, the defense is actually looking at the plays, trying to figure out, what can I do better to stop the other team's offense? Same thing. The same concept applies. So what we say is, the first time that the teacher record themselves for that month, it's a dress rehearsal. That gives the teacher time to reflect on it. And then when they record it the second time, this is the best that they got. So now, again, no judgment, but you can see exactly where the teacher is. What is their current reality? So by the time they record themselves the second time, they've really had about 3 weeks of practice.
And I would add to that, when a teacher seems to be extremely focused on one concern, for example, a novice teacher, we can put money in the bank that a new teacher is going to be most worried about student behavior. And sometimes it's hard to guide them off it. And so we always talk to coaches about, use that as the door that opens into some other skills and strategies. So, for example, you might say, I hear that you really want to keep working on behavior management. How about if we work on it by designing a little bit more rigor into your lesson? And when the lesson has some extra challenge to it for some groups or subgroups, I think we'll probably see behavior impacted also. Now the teacher gets what she wants. I want to work on behavior. I feel like I need to work on behavior. And you're showing them that there's more than one door to that. But I heartily concur with Ursula. Keep it simple, focus on an important aspect, and get all the juices out of that you possibly can.
And just to follow up on Paula's point, oftentimes when teachers are having problems with behavior, usually there's a trigger. And video allows that visibility and reflection, and a teacher can say, oh, each time I do this, it triggers Jacob to do this. So I need to be more mindful of what is triggering Jacob, so that Jacob can have a great learning experience. So it's just the visibility of what's going on in the classroom. And so, I mean, video coaching is no different in the schoolhouse as it is on a football field. I know in football season. And so, if you just really watch closely, that's what the athletes are doing to improve their skills. And so, this needs to be transferred into the classroom.
And just imagine the wisdom required of the teacher to pick from the 2 or 3 videos they made in a month, which one to submit to their coach. There isn't this politics of, oh, will my principal agree with my evaluation, my lesson, and mark me down if I mark it lower? It isn't any of that. It's watching your lesson or lessons for the one that you think shows your coach what you want to show your coach. And that puts a really strong lens of self-assessment onto your own teaching. There's no other way to get there as well as through a practice like this.
Yeah, I think that self-reflection piece is so important. So
Huge,
thank you for
huge.
making
Yep.
that point, Paula. And I think, Ursula, that the football, basketball, baseball, whatever sport you want to choose, comparison is so accurate. Of really looking at what we're doing and seeing where we have room for improvement, where we had big wins, and how we can replicate those. So I think thanks for both of your great comments on that. Ursula, are administrators in Rockdale using the Torch platform and video coaching as well? I guess our leaders, we don't have a ton of context for this question, so we welcome it if the person wants to submit more, but are administrators being coached through Torch, or are they also offering some coaching and feedback?
Now, Emily, that's on my vision board.
Okay.
So we're not there
Part of your
yet.
growth plan.
Yes. So we're not there yet. However, what I will say is we are a very moving district, and we now, well, at the end of either this school year or first semester of next school year, we'll have cameras in every single classroom. And so, what that will allow us to do is really implement the Best Foot Forward project. If you all look that up, Best Foot Forward by Harvard University, where our administrators would be trained on how to use video for evaluation purposes. Now, there's a psyche behind that concept, because in that study, you'll notice that on average, a teacher recorded themselves 12 times before they submitted the video for an observation. So what does that mean? That was taking place in that teacher's mind? I got to get it right. I have to get it right so that when I submit this to my administrator, this is the best that I have. Now, the findings in that study said that even though teachers recorded themselves 12 times, the administrators could see the gaps that the teacher was experiencing, even in a video. However, the conversation was less subjective, and the teacher was less defensive and was willing to work with the administrator to change. How remarkable is that?
Tremendous.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
that's the
Mhm.
relationship and environment that you want.
Absolutely. So that's our ultimate goal. I've been working on this for many, many years. But like I said, you have to go slow in order to go fast. And right now, we're right in that place where we're building that momentum. Video coaching is just prevalent throughout our entire district. And so our next natural step would be for our administrators to leverage video.
Yes. Amen. Amen, amen. And they'll be shocked at how
Mhm.
much time it saves them. They will be
Absolutely.
shocked when they really get their arms around it. And uh, I'm admiring your sort of gradual assumption of responsibility model, or gradual release of control as you move from we don't do it the coaching way into we can all do it in the coaching way, and how you
Right.
start small. And I'm sure that when you do that with evaluators, and when you say, we're going to let, for the first year, we're going to let you pick, and it's voluntary, and
Yep.
it low stake, we're gonna make it somehow low stakes for both you and the teachers you evaluate in that first year, and sort of everybody's really receptive because Torch has earned a great name in another way in your
Correct.
district, right? And so now we can say, "Yeah, we're thinking about it for a higher stakes situation, but you
Mhm.
know this work. You know this work,
Absolutely.
and
And I noticed,
you just laid the perfect groundwork for that. It couldn't be better."
thank you so much. I noticed
We'll
in
have
the
you
chat
back to
book,
talk about that, Ursula, when you get there in the journey.
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
I
That's
Mhm.
noticed that Carrie also asked a question about how did I get established teacher buy-in? And
yeah.
so, Carrie, to address that question, that's a real good question. You know what I did? I started with a core group. Now, I met with the lead mentors, and I had the lofty goal of asking them to record themselves once a week. And so one of the lead mentors said, Ursula, what about twice a month? It's more than once a year. I was
Mhm.
sold. So I allowed them to participate in some of the decision making. And then the next step was training. So I had to be patient, provide professional development. I even had Torch do some of the professional development because sometimes hearing it from a different voice really goes a long way. And then we just, each year we had a different focus. So, the very first year it was just upload your video and just watch the video, please. And then the next year it was, now that we've gotten this down, we know how to do this, everybody is familiar with uploading. Now I needed to train the mentors on providing feedback. So what we recognized was that our mentors were really good at providing positive feedback, all of those glows, but they struggled with providing constructive feedback. So when we realized that, we had to shift some of the processes and give them, front load some of the prompts that they could ask to help that teacher move along. And so now we are about to offer a training session. And I don't know if you all know Tina Bogren. She wrote the book. Um, what is it called? Give me a second. Um, Supporting Beginning Teachers. That's it. She wrote the book Supporting Beginning Teachers. And so now all of our coaches and our lead mentors will receive training from the author about supporting induction teachers. But I've read that book twice, and really and truly, it's really about supporting adults and how to use professionalism and not rob them of their professionalism, but then also approaching this sensitive topic of improvement with sensitivity. Because what we have to realize is, yes, we need them to mentor and coach these teachers, but at the same time, our teachers are professional and they deserve integrity. And you can't go in being a know-it-all and just tell them you need to do this. You have to approach it with what I call hospitable care. You can be nice and still get your point across. You can ask probing questions to get that teacher to self-reflect, and you knew it all along, but they self-discovered the solution. And that's what we want. We want them to self-discover the solution, because when they self-discover, then they have 100% buy-in.
Mm-hmm. So right.
Well, I can't believe how quickly this hour has gone. So thank you again, Paula and Ursula, for being here with us. And thanks to all of our attendees who asked such great and thoughtful questions. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to quite all of them, but hopefully you got many of your questions answered and learned a lot today. So again, thank you for being here. If you are interested in learning more about Torch, we'd love for you to reach out. You can explore their website at torch.co. And you'll see lots of great other videos and testimonials about how the Torch platform works. And you can reach out to schedule a demo or a call about your professional learning needs and how Torch might be able to support them. Thanks again for being here. Thanks, Ursula and Paula. We really appreciate all your insights, and we wish everyone a great day.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.